Good morning, students. Today we will understand the first chapter, Mr. Toad's Adventure. This is not a story, but it is an extract from the novel The Wind in the Willows, which was published in 1908. The present lesson, Mr. Toad's Adventure, it is not a story, but it is one of the extracts taken from the novel The Winds in the Willows, which was published in 1908 and written by Kenneth Graham. Toad and frog are similar, little bit difference there. We are not going in deep about toad and frog. The present extract, the present lesson is about how the adventure of Toad leads him in some disasters. In the present lesson, we will see that how the adventure of Mr. Toad leads him in some disaster. Now let's see the lesson. One bright summer morning, Mr. Toad was walking briskly along the high road. In the beginning of the chapter, we are given that one bright summer morning, Mr. Toad, he was walking briskly along the high road. Briskly, it means swiftly, speedily. As he was walking for a long time and also has crossed a long distance, he was hungry. As he was hungry, he marched into an inn. Inn, it means restaurant. So Mr. Toad, as he passed a long distance, he walked swiftly, he walked speedily. Due to it, he was hungry. So to satisfy his hunger, he marched into an inn. Inn, it means restaurant. He ordered best luncheon and sat in the coffee room. After entering into inn, after entering into restaurant, Mr. Toad ordered luncheon. Luncheon, it means eatables during lunch time, and sat in the coffee room. When he was served the food, while he was having the lunch, he heard a sound, poop poop. Here poop poop, that sound, it is a sound of vehicle, and in the present lesson it is the sound of a car. So when he was having a lunch, during that time he heard the sound poop poop, and that sound came nearer. A car could be heard turning into the inn yard and stop. Inn yard, it means premise or campus in restaurant. So a car could be heard turning into the inn yard and stop. So when he was having a lunch, that time he heard a sound of a car, and that car entered in the restaurant premises and stopped. The party entered in coffee room. The party word is used in our lesson. The party entered. Here the party, it means not a person but a group of people. A group of people entered in the coffee room, and these people, they were talkative, and the main agenda, their main topic for their conversation, that is in all praise of the car that had brought them. So these people, this group of people, they were talking about the car in which they have come to the restaurant. So group of people who entered in the restaurant, they were talking about the car in which they have come to the restaurant. So that conversation was heard by Mr. Toad. Mr. Toad had listened that conversation eagerly, and as Mr. Toad was fond of adventurous, he decided to observe the car. So Mr. Toad slipped out of the coffee room quietly, sauntered, it means walked in a relaxed manner round to the inn yard. So finally, when Mr. Toad has heard the conversation of the group of people about the car, he silently came out of the coffee room. he went to the inn yard. He went into the inn yard and sauntered. Sauntered, it means walked in a relaxed manner round to the inn yard. Then he observed the car, inspected the car. Mr. Toad inspected the car. He observed the car carefully. Again and again he was moving around the car and observing this car. While observing the car, he was very mesmerized. Mesmerized, it means attracted. He was highly attracted by observing the car. So he thought, if this car starts easily, what will happen? After observing the car, when he was attracted, then numbers of thoughts came in his mind that if this car starts easily, then what he would do with this car. Finally, he sat in the driver's seat holding the handle of the car. He was mesmerized. So finally, he sat in the driver's seat holding the handle of the car. He was fond of adventures. The nature, he was highly influenced by adventurous activity. So he pulled the lever and finally started the car. When he started the car, he was joviant. He was very happy. So all sense of right and wrong suspended for Mr. Toad. It means Mr. Toad forgot what is right and what is wrong. It means he became nonsense. What is right, what is wrong, that sense he was not able to identify. That much he was happy. He drove the car fast without knowledge where he was going. He drove the car fast without knowledge, without knowing that where he was going. So when Mr. Toad, he had started the car, he was very happy. What was right, what was wrong, that was forgotten by Mr. Toad. That much happy he was. Only he knew that he was Mr. Toad. He knew only that he was Mr. Toad, the traffic queller and the king of the street. He was very happy. He forgot what is right, what is wrong. Only thing he knew that he was Mr. Toad, the traffic queller and the king of the street. He continued his driving and he drove the car recklessly. Recklessly, it means carelessly, without care. He continued to drive the car. He was also enjoying the driving. As he was enjoying the driving, he was very happy. He considered himself as the king of the street. So he increased the pace. He increased the speed of the car, and during that time there was turning point in this extract that he heard the police siren, and the police was there, and the siren was heard by Mr. Toad. Mr. Toad, he thought of escaping, but he was caught. Mr. Toad, he thought that he would escape from the police, but finally he was caught. A cop, it means a policeman. He approached him with stern look. Stern, it means serious. A policeman approached to him and with serious look, and the policeman, as usual, first demanded for the license. The policeman asked Mr. Toad for his license. In response to this, Mr. Toad, he replied in a very bad manner to the policeman. He responded roughly, and what was his reply? I was just testing how fast the car was, so not needed the license. Mr. Toad, he replied roughly to the policeman that he was just testing the car, that how fast the car was, so it didn't need the license. Very next moment, he was in the court of law. It means he was arrested by the policeman, and in the very next moment he was presented in the court of law. All the procedure was done, and finally Mr. Toad was found guilty for three crimes. Mr. Toad, he was found guilty for his three crimes, and these three crimes: first, stealing the car. He had stolen the car from the inn yard. Second, reckless driving. He drove the car recklessly, carelessly. And the third reason, that is cheeking the police. Cheeking, cheeking. Cheeking, it means disrespecting the police. Misbehave with police. So due to these three kinds, he was found guilty. Mr. Toad was found guilty for three crimes: for stealing a car, driving recklessly, and third, disrespecting the police. So the chairman of the court asked Mr. Clerk what penalty for such kind of offence. The chairman of the court asked the clerk that what kind of punishment should be given to Mr. Toad. The clerk replied that stealing a car, it was the worst offence. Driving recklessly and cheeking the police, disrespecting the police, surely carry the severest penalty. So the clerk replied the chairman that the worst offence, that is stealing a car, and reckless driving and cheeking the police, that was the severest, it also carry the severest penalty. So in all this addition, finally Mr. Toad, he deserved 20 years imprisonment. That was the response given by the clerk to Mr. Chairman. The chairman agreed with Mr. Clerk and declared the punishment, declared the judgment, and according to it, Mr. Toad, he was given 20 years imprisonment. See the adventures of Mr. Toad that led him to imprisonment. The policeman loaded Mr. Toad with chains and dragged him from the courthouse. The policemen, they loaded Mr. Toad with chains and dragged him from the courthouse. And when they were taking Mr. Toad to the prison, at the marketplace, the spectators, the people at the marketplace, they attacked Mr. Toad with carrots, and also they used very catchy words for Mr. Toad. Finally, Mr. Toad, he was taken to the innermost prison and locked. This is our lesson, Mr. Toad's adventure. In the present lesson, we have seen that the Mr. Toad's adventure led him to imprisonment, led him to disaster. This is about Mr. Toad's adventure. Thank you.